The reason it's called Windy Cove Lane, this area was always called Windy Cove. And when kids would be learning to sail from the yacht club, they always brought them up here, and this was always windy. But at one point, there were, when there were more people moving out here, it turned out there were two Porter's Lanes. This one, which is now Windy Cove Lane, and another one somewhere. And so word went out from somewhere, the town. My husband heard about it, and they said, we need to have a new name for this second Porter's Lane. So my husband and I, or mostly him, because he was the idea man, we put the name in for Windy Cove Lane, because this area was always called Windy Cove. And I guess nobody else sent any things in, so I don't know anyway this was chosen anyway. So that's why it's called Windy Cove Lane. My husband grew up in the summer at Seal Cove up near Hollywood. And when our children came along, when we lived in St. John's, he said, I want the kids to learn to mess around with boats. And so we thought maybe we'd get a little summer house out this area. Alec Henley, who was a friend of my husband's, said he knew that Fred was interested. And he said, I know there's a place going to be for sale. It's not on the market yet. I have a key to it, and if you'd like to look at it. So he gave us the key, and my husband and I came out here on a cold, wintry day. Oh my goodness, and we weren't very impressed. It was freezing cold in here. But when we got out here to these windows and we saw this view, we just looked at each other and we said, yeah, this is it. But now we only ever came out for the summer. It was a summer house. You'd come out after school in June, and you'd go back on Labor Day weekend. So we can't say I was a full-time resident, because I never was up until just a few years ago, but it was always just come out and spend a couple of months out here.
Dad would commute.
And the kids all learned to mess around in boats, and yeah. And it's always been a very happy place, and we've always been sort of an open house, and we've got a pool. But as I said, my husband was an idea man, and one morning at breakfast years ago, he said, we're going to build a pool. And I said, oh, why are we going to do that? And he said, it'll be a grandchild trap. And that's exactly what it's been. And it's been open house always, except this summer we had to contain just family. But up until then, I could say to Jan, if you want to bring some friends up and their children, you know, and anybody, it was open house for anybody and everybody. And it was a very happy place, wasn't it? And my children all are used to this area, and two of my children live in this area, Jan and Doug, and then about 5 of my grandchildren live in CBS or Paradise. The drawing of this area has always appealed to them. This has been like a home, you know. When we bought this place, we bought it from Jim Halley, who's a lawyer, and he and 3 other young guys built shacks. This one next door, Cal Pratt, and the next one was Frank O'Leary, and the third one was John Murphy. And they were very plain, just little country house shacks. The guys were all single, they weren't married, and so when they all got married, then each of the wives said, well, I'm not staying in that crummy little place, you're going to have to fix it up. So and we only just came out for the summer. So those were our main friends, and they all had children, about the age of my children. But then we made friends with other people, and all around, you know. But as I say, very few were live-years. Yes, well, first off, when we moved out, all the other three houses here had been here, and they all knew each other. And when I came out with my children, they didn't know anybody. It was all new to them. And the street we lived on in St. John's, everybody knew everybody else. So naturally, I would bring out friends for my children. Well, first of all, when we came, they'd all say, "There's nothing to do out here, Mom. We don't know anybody." So I would end up, instead of having 4 children, I'd have 8. But then they were happy, you know. We belonged to the yacht club at one point, and they had a pool there, and they always had a lot of adult stuff going on. So there was a lot of stuff you could do over there. And then we would have people come here for a meal, or, you know, and the husbands would go to work in the morning and into town and come back, and so the wives, and none of the wives worked, and so we had coffee parties and get-togethers, the women and the children, you know. Yeah. Berg's ice cream place now. It was originally owned by a Mr. Berg, and it was sort of a general store. You could get anything there, but I don't think it got ice cream. But it was the only place around. I usually brought all my groceries from town because I was used to doing that. But a lot of people dealt with him. But and then I guess.
How about the store? What was it like inside?
Oh, it was a jumble. And a lot of people had accounts there. And remember, young Cal Pratt he could go up there and get ice cream. And Doug went up, my oldest son went up with him because they were friends one time. And young Cal said, "Well, you can get ice cream here. You got an account." And Doug said, "No, we don't." And I never did have an account with Mr. Berg. And you know, it was long distance to call St. John's.
Oh, really?
Right. And it was so much a call. And we had one telephone, and I had to restrict all the kids. They all had friends in town. And you could, I think each child was allowed one call a day, and for only a short while, because you were charged then if it was a long call. I can't remember how much it was, but you know, I had 4 kids, and they'd soon mount it up. Yeah. We always had the car, but the train was still running there. A lot of people would come out by train as far as Berg's. There was a little station there, and people would come out for the day on the train and then go back later in the afternoon. But no, we always drove out in a car full of kids, and hungry kids. So we got into the habit of going to the A&W on our way out here, because once they got here, they all wanted a meal, and my husband and I'd be left unpacking the car and all kinds of stuff. So we got into the habit of going to A&W first.
On Kenmount Road.
On Kenmount Road, and then come on out here. Yeah. Well, we had I can't remember all the boats. We must have had a rowboat, and we had that white boat that we had at May Park Place, and we used it for water skiing. Mm-hmm. Remember?
Yeah.
So by Kent's Pond, we had the boat and the wharf there, and then when we bought this place, we brought that boat out, and I guess there was a rowboat.
We go off to Kelly's Island and.
Oh yes, you go over, yeah, and the burnt island always had blueberries in the fall. Yeah, the kids all learned to manage boats. Well, there's so many people out here now, and of course it's a year-round place now. Where we started coming out, it was just for the summer months when the school was out. Yeah. But it's a particularly lovely spot when the weather's nice, and this last month it's just been so beautiful. I used to be able to look out, get out on the deck and look out and see the yacht club. And I remember one day the four of you went over in a boat to the yacht club and took Peter, who was only about 5, I guess. And I was watching you all go over, and you all went over, tied up the boat, and clambered up the ladder to go into the yacht club area. And little Peter, was only a little tot, nobody paid attention to him. And I was appalled as I watched. And this little tot, he climbed up the ladder. And so when they all came home, I ripped into them. I said, "Look, you just left that little fellow. He could have fallen off." Nah.